Okay, let's start looking at Python data types. This should be very familiar to you from when we studied JavaScript. We're going to look at three data types: the string, the int, and the float. The string, remember, can be anything. It can be text or numbers. We just can't do math with it. We can concatenate, but we can't do math. And then the int is a whole number that we can do math with, and the float is a decimal number that we can do math with. So let's start out with strings. Let's say I want a variable called text, and I want it to store the value I'm fine. So I'm fine has an apostrophe in it. Then I would need to start or encapsulate this phrase in double quotation marks. Okay? And if we print that variable's value, we'll see that it did print that single quotation mark. Now we can use the reverse if we have double quotation marks in a phrase. So if we had, she said hello, notice that I can't use double quotation marks for encapsulate my phrase because I'm getting errors here. I'm getting different colors. What I need to do is a single quotation mark around the phrase. And then when I print the value of that variable, I have the double quotation marks. What if I had a phrase that had both single and double? Now you may remember this from JavaScript. So let's say I have the phrase, she said, I'm fine. Okay? So I'm fine, we want to have double quotation marks around, okay, if we are doing proper English. But we also have this apostrophe here, so it's messing up our whole thing right here. Okay, so we just need to pick one, whichever one we want to pick. In this case, I'll pick double quotation marks. And then wherever I want a double quotation mark to actually print, then I would use an escape sequence. If you look on page 43 in your book, it shows you some escape sequences that are pretty common in Python. And these all include a backslash in front of some kind of character. If I put a backslash in front of this double quotation mark, it's going to print that double quotation mark and not treat it like we are trying to give a string literal value. Okay? And then I need to do that again to this one as well. Now, if I print text, I get the actual text that I wanted to print. Had I, and I'm just going to copy and paste this just so that you could see what would happen if I didn't do that, I would get an error message and see invalid syntax. Okay? So just switch it up. You should kind of remember that from JavaScript. There's another thing that we need to look at and say that we wanted to have text appear on a different line. So say I wanted Mario, and then I wanted brothers to appear on the next line. I can't just press enter. You see what happens? But if I do 3 double quotation marks, Mario, press enter, brothers, and then close that with 3 double quotation marks, when I print that value, it will print them on separate lines. So be aware you can do that with triple quotation marks, or there's an escape sequence for that too. We could do Mario, and then there's a backslash new line, and then you could do brothers, and then when we print text, it prints on 2 lines. Oh, but notice that extra spacing in there. I probably should have typed it in like this without a space. Okay? So then if I print text, it doesn't have that extra space in there. Okay? Okay, let's look at some more things with strings. Let's say we wanted to have several spaces in a phrase. What if we did text equals, and let's say we want to have 10 empty spaces. We could multiply that empty string by 10, and then we could concatenate a word on the end of it, like Mario. Okay, so if we print text, we have a whole bunch of, we have 10 spaces there, and then the word Mario. All right, we have looked at these variables, so this is how we are creating and assigning variables. We give them a variable name. We don't have to use the keyword var like we did in JavaScript, and then we assign it a value. Remember, what is on the right side of the equal sign in programming is the value that you are assigning. The variable name is on the left side. So some of our naming conventions for Python, we will use camel case. So if this was a variable called text phrase, we would capitalize the next line. We could also have symbolic constants. Now these are variables that the value does not change because of the program. So think of things like sales tax. Like Mississippi sales tax hasn't increased in many, many years. So if you were using a program that used sales tax, that would be almost a constant. So you could type it in all uppercase with a underscore between the name. So like tax rate, and we could set that equal to 7%. Okay? And then concatenation works just the same as it did in JavaScript. So if I had a variable called first name and set it to Mario, and then I had a last name and set it equal to brothers. Haha, that's funny, right? And then if I had a variable called full name, I could set it equal to first name concatenated with a space concatenated with last name. So now if I print full name, I get Mario space brothers. So that should all be familiar from JavaScript. Another thing are comments. So we could have like a section of comments. So we could do 3 double quotation marks for a lot of comments. So these would be comments that take up more than one line. We include those in threes. And then if we want like a end of line comment, so let's say we had one for first name. We can use a hashtag and just say contains first name. Okay, so now if we print first name, it still prints Mario, but that comment is just there for the programmer. And of course, this will mean more when we're working in the script than when we're actually working in the shell, but you always need to know how to do single line comments. So those are with a hashtag, and multi-line comments are with triple quotation marks.